monumental shifts in my life, in my career, and more importantly, how that relates to your business. So you might hear my accent. I'm originally from Chicago, USA. So that's lovely Chicago there, beautiful skyline. If you're not familiar with Chicago, it's known for its amazing cuisine, the pizza, the world famous au cheval burger, and amazing entertainment. Like that's me and my brother at a baseball game. You can find sports games any time of the year, or any type of entertainment. The joke is, if you're bored in Chicago, it's your own fault, because there's always something going on. So I grew up in a small suburb of Chicago, and it was, a very small, close-knit town. Not a lot of people went to university. Not a lot of people left. If you were born there, you kind of stayed there. That afforded me like a ton of support. So you see here up at the top, that's a typical Sunday afternoon at my grandparents' house. On the bottom there, that's one of my themed parties that I usually would do. Some of our friends came out to party with us there. And as you can see, I always had a bit of an artistic flair about me. And my family and friends were always very supportive of that. They would humor me as I would make my own cartoons and movies as a kid. All my cousins would, take turns playing different parts, being the recorder, being the, advertiser to tell the other kids the show is going on, or whatever the case. So yeah, if you're wondering, that's me. I always had a passion for film and video games, and so I used to go to conventions, and this is Chicago Comic-Con, and all these huge brands and film companies would have booths there, and I would visit the booths, and I would go to all the different cons all over the U.S., and I remember visiting the Weta booth and thinking to myself, someday, wouldn't it be amazing if I worked there? It would be so cool. With the amazing support of all the people that I showed you just a minute ago, I decided to go to university for media arts and animation, and I ended up being the first female in my family to get a college degree. So I went on to work for several Fortune 500 companies in the States. I met my wonderful husband, and he was just as passionate about film and just as huge of a Lord of the Rings nut like as I was. And the opportunity came for us to come to New Zealand to work for Weta, our dream company. And so we dropped all the comforts of home and we moved all the way out here to pursue our dreams. Living in America, we didn't even know where New Zealand was on a map. We were just like, we're gonna figure it out and it's gonna be great. A few years later, I had another huge monumental shift in my personal life as my little miracle baby was born here in New Zealand, so she's an Amerikiwi. Now I'm a stay-at-home mom, and as Dallas mentioned, I'm a brand consultant, and I teach graphic design and branding at the local college. So after working both in America and in New Zealand, I started noticing some themes throughout all the different companies, both large and small. Excuse me. It seemed, backward. Go back one. So it seems like all the successful companies were very aware and cultivated their brand personality. That was one of the cornerstones of the brand that they would create. So this is a company I worked for called Redbox. It was like a machine, and you can rent a DVD for $1. And it was outside, so you can go any time of day. And the entire flow that I worked on, where you can interact, you see the guy there, to find your film, your DVD, and rent that out. So the entire flow was patented, and I was listed as an inventor for its usability and design. And my kiosk designs are still live today across America, with an approximate number of 2,000 people using my designs per minute in the States. So the founder, Mitch, he was a huge movie buff, and that was his passion. That's why he created Redbox. And he was very tech savvy. His goal was to create something that was easy to rent DVDs, and you wouldn't have to like get dressed up and go to the store. You could just 2 a.m. go rent a DVD. But as time went on and we started observing customers actually using the Redbox, we discovered that they weren't as tech savvy as we had expected. And they took the whole comfort renting thing to a whole new level. So that's the next slide. Yeah, so they were behaving in ways that we hadn't predicted. And finding out that the users weren't as tech savvy, we realized that we needed to revamp our brand. So the founder decided to shift the brand personality more toward our current customer base. So there on the left, you'll see that is the original design. So it uses a lot of technical terms. It's maybe not immediately obvious that it is a DVD rental kiosk. On the right here, that is the redesign that I worked on. So you see the movies are front and center, so even if you just kind of casually walk by, it would in theory grab your attention. And we used icons as well to make it very clear and obvious. And some of the areas that we had the box in, people didn't always speak English, thank you. And so we found the icons increased the usability because you didn't necessarily need to be able to read what was on the screen in your language in order to rent a movie. So on to What a Workshop. So I worked on assets for various films like Alita, Planet of the Apes, Ghost in the Shell, all sorts of crazy, amazing things. But the highlight of my time there was actually working on the Comic-Con booth. So me and my amazing team of designers, we created like the entire booth. You see it there, and that's the owner, Richard Taylor, there. So what pours their passion for art and creativity into their brand, which creates an emotional connection with their customers. And so you see on the right there, so that is an actual fan who stopped by the Weta booth. And if you think about it, there were nearly 200,000 people in attendance that year. And so the branding is really what attracted our ideal customer here. And she's a huge Galadriel fan, and a lot of these people actually hand make their own costumes. And so when she saw one of the mini epics here, she saw the Galadriel one where it was actually wearing the dress that she was wearing. You could see how excited and happy she was. And so that's another illustration of how Richard Taylor's personality mimics the personality of our ideal customer. So we've been talking about brand, so I should probably give you like the official definition. A brand is made of the things that people think about when they think of a business. So it's the words that people would use to describe you to a friend. It's the thoughts that they have when they see your logo, the emotions that they feel when they open your products. That's why so many companies have unboxing videos and things like that, because that has become such a core piece to the brand, especially with COVID and people staying at home more. Having that magical unboxing experience has become so important. So as part of that, to understand brand personalities, we're going to play a little game. So here I have a couple of founders of different companies, and I'm going to show you some branding, and then you're going to guess which founder created that brand. So this is Steelseries, one of the companies that I work for in America. Has anyone heard of Steelseries? So professional video gamers, that's like a huge thing in the States. Some people get full rides to university based on playing for a university's professional video game team. And this company makes the equipment that these gamers use. So the headsets, mouse, you see one of the mouse I brought one of them there, the pink and purple one. And they're just really high performance products. So here I have So here I have an example of one of their ads, one of their branding. So what adjectives might you use to describe this brand? If you just kind of call out some words.
Masculine.
Masculine, okay. Anybody else? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I might add energetic, high performance, and maybe best in class. You see there on the top, that's one of the Steelseries sponsored teams. They won the $1 Million prize that year. So that's definitely something that they feature on their website. So next. So out of these founders, which one do you reckon created this brand? So I'm just going to do a little game, show of hands. So who thinks it's A, B, C, D? Very good.
Say a little bit first.
Next. If you guessed B, you would be correct. This is Jakob. He is from Denmark originally, and he is not a pro gamer. In fact, his personality is very different from the brand's personality. And he doesn't like to kind of showcase himself with his brand very much. That's the best picture I could find of him. And he, like I mentioned, he's very tech savvy, and he recognized that there was a gap in the market for high performance gear for these pro gamers. And so he actually hired a ton of ex-pro gamers to work on his team to create these products. And then part of my job was to do usability surveys, to go to things like BlizzCon and pro gaming championships, things like that, and actually interview the pro gamers of what they were looking for. And that was used to define the brand's personality. Okay. So Jakob's done. We've got 3 left. Okay, so this is Yumi Twins, and you see there I have it's a little blind box that you get every month, and it has random items from Tokyo in it. So what adjectives might you use to describe this brand?
Cute.
Cute. Anybody else?
Fun.
Fun, yes.
Bright.
Bright, yes, very much so. And I would add maybe like an innocence to it. And you notice they use a lot of purple, so that's a brand choice. Purple is normally associated with mystery, since it's a blind box that kind of relates to that. So, same thing. Who thinks A created this? Yeah. All right. C. D. All right. So next. If you guessed A, you would be correct. So this is Ayumi. She is from Japan, and she's everything her brand is. She's adorable. She's sweet. She's innocent. She loves everything Kawaii, and she used to send a box of Tokyo-related items to her friend in America, and she called her twin. So that's why it's Yumi Twins. And it became so popular that now she has a full-fledged business, and I love it. I buy it all the time. All right, so now we've got, this is the last time we're going to do it. We only have 2 founders left. So this is Tokidoki. So you can see the little ponies there on the end. So they're little tiny collectible vinyl figures. And it's a blind box that you get. You don't know which one you're going to open to. And it's really fun. They've also expanded into clothing and book bags and things like that. So what adjectives might you use to describe this brand?
Cool.
Cool, yeah.
Busy. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You see the difference between Yumi Twins, that was kind of like a simpler branding, and this is so busy. I might add high energy. I might add edgy, like cute but edgy. Okay. So, how many think it's C? Very good. How many people think it's D? All right. So that guy is right. So this is Simone. He was born and raised in Rome. And as you can see, he has 0 tattoos. And as we just saw in the previous, all his work has tattoo work in it. He was very passionate about Japanese art and California lifestyle. And so when he created his company, he actually decided to spend half the year in Japan and half the year in California to kind of really understand and immerse himself in that culture. And he hired a bunch of Japanese people for the Japanese office, and he hired a bunch of California people from the California office, and he has them collaborate together to continue to cultivate this brand personality that's so different from his own. So we just talked about all the different, oh, and by the way, if you're curious, the last person that we didn't end up using, that is Cupcake Gemma. And she is amazing. I encourage you to check her out. And maybe just use it as an exercise to see if you think that her brand personality is her own personality. Okay, lastly, we have game time. So you have little sheets of paper under your desk there. So a lot of people have side businesses nowadays, not everyone does. So we're gonna play this game to see if your brand's personality and your company's personality are the same. I'm sorry, your brand's personality and your own personality. So we're gonna start by, I'll set the timer. If you don't have your own company, just think about your favorite brand. So we're gonna start by putting a little asterisk next to every word that describes your personality. I'm gonna set the timer for 3 minutes.
That's good exercise.
Okay. So is everyone ready? All right. 3 minutes. Go. And this is just your gut reaction. Don't think about it too much. Just anything that calls out to you that's your personality. Just put a little asterisk. Okay, we're halfway through. Okay, 60 seconds. you to go through and put a circle around your brand's personality. So remember, this is separate from you. This is your company's personality. So I'm going to give about 2 minutes for you to circle those. And if you're done, just look up at me and then I can end it sooner if you've already done it. Okay, so starting it now. Okay, 1 minute. That is time. All right, so now we've asterisked our personality and circled our brand's personality. So how many people had zero overlap? Yeah. So if I had you as a client, I would say, you might want to hire people that represent your brand's personality, do user surveys, things like that, so you can fully understand your customer. How many people had a lot of overlap? Yeah. So if I had you as a customer, I might say you might want to name the company after yourself. Use the things that define you and you're the most passionate about, and use that in your brand personality because you are your customer base. And so that's why figuring out your brand's personality is really the first thing that you should do, and it creates a monumental shift in your branding that can really help you reach the customer with very little investment up front. So that is my talk. So if you have any questions, I'd love to take questions. Otherwise, follow me on Instagram at SoAdorably, and I might see you at one of my classes at the Wellington College. Thank you so much for your
Thank you so much. Stay standing, you can answer questions, girl. Do we have any questions from anybody? Anyone got anything burning? Because I've got one. Great. So when you start working with a new client, what are the first, what's the first thing that you will do to get on in there?
Yeah, so first I hear about if they have any existing branding to see if we can leverage anything they already have. I look into, so part of being a UX designer is data-driven design. So we look at how old your customer is, we look at where they're located, we look at, do they identify as male, female, that kind of thing. And then we create the brand around that data. And so that would be where I start. And then usually the second step is I really need to find out if the person that I'm dealing with is also their brand's personality. So this is really the most important thing that I always do in the very first meeting. Yes?
What do you think is the main difference for you from being kind of, a data UX practitioner
consultant, it's usually a refresh, brand refresh, or it's a brand new company with zero thing. So it's either an established brand that's been around for quite some time, or something starting fresh. So like, for example, after I had my daughter, I became a stay-at-home mom, and I started doing freelance from home. And a lot of my friends from Weta that were artists during COVID, they started up new businesses of just their passions, their side passions. So I've done a lot of, brand work from scratch doing that, which is very fun from a brand consultant perspective, because you're not kind of fighting against an established 50-year-old brand. It's something fresh and new. But if it was something that was around for some time, then as far as like the consultant piece, it's more like you probably hire an agency to do your rebrand, and as a brand consultant, I would interact with that agency on your behalf, because I've been through a couple of redesigns for the company Redbox that had like $1 billion per day. They spend probably $100,000 on their brand refresh, so you really need someone to kind of guide that process and make sure it stays on track.
How would you define UX design in the context of UI and CX?
Yeah, so UX design is user-centered design, so it kind of revolves all around the way that the customer interacts with the product. So for example, that kiosk slide that I showed you, there was a little button on the bottom, not sure if you saw that, that had a little image of someone in a wheelchair. So we found that a lot of people that were using the Redbox would go to the Redbox instead of in the store, because it was so much easier in a wheelchair or on crutches to just kind of pull up to the Redbox. And so much like elevator buttons are kind of lower because then someone in a wheelchair can reach them, that's what we did for the kiosk as well. So I worked with American Disabilities Association. When you press that button, it lowers all of the UI to the bottom half of the screen so that someone with a disability can still interact with it. So that's an example of UX design. The second piece was, what was it? UX design versus?
So it's function and user interaction and then customer experience.
Yes, so UX is kind of thinking through how to lay out those pieces so that someone, for example, in a wheelchair can use them. The UI piece is what it actually looks like, the colors that you use, making sure that, another thing that we did with those kiosks is making sure that people who were colorblind could still use the kiosk. So you noticed that the button sizes were varied, and that was on purpose, so that even if you can't see color, you can see the icon and you can see that it's a smaller button. Also at Weta Workshop, when we did the Comic-Con booth, we had these sales, like it was like, 2 for 1 or 20% off or whatever. And all the little markers were all the same color. And so if you think about 10,000 people that are kind of rushing past, if they're just looking for buy one, get one free, how long would it take them to kind of get through the crowd? And if you have trouble seeing color, how can you really see black text on a red background to be able to understand where the sales are? So that was a UX and UI, that was a UX exercise where I came up with this color-coded system where, all the greens were buy one, get one free, all the reds were Comic-Con exclusive. So that increased our sale. We made like over $1 million in sales that day, just from changing, so thinking about our customer. And I had done a lot of research about the attendees at Comic-Con, and we found out that a lot of them are male. A lot of males have color blindness issues. So I made sure that we user tested those things. We showed them to different males with varying color blindness to make sure that they could actually see it, which of course ended up being a successful product because of that.
$1 million in a day. That's incredible. Yeah, you told us that story like earlier, and I was like, that's amazing. It's like still mind blowing. That's insane. Any other questions? There was one that was kind of floating around in here, I think, but I might have disappeared. No, cool.
Okay. If you wanted to come up and see any of these things, so these are just examples of various products. They're like, these are things that I actually worked on, or if you just want to learn more. For example, this is a full-fledged brand deck that I made with a team that we made together to understand the brand of the mini Epics boxes. If you've seen them, they're very fun. And every decision, like even just the color background, we did a lot of research and purposely made those decisions to attract a certain kind of customer. And this document outlines that. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, please do come up afterwards, you guys. But everyone, can you join me in thanking Reina? That was fantastic.